All right, 1-7, compute with scientific notation, day 2. This is the last lesson in Unit 1. So we are adding and subtracting with scientific notation. On the front, we're going to be talking all about like terms, and on the back, we'll be talking about mathing with unlike terms. So first up, like terms. All right, like terms, scientific notation must have the same exponent. Okay, so you must have the same exponent or for them to be like terms. And 2. In math, not just in scientific notation, but in math, you can only combine like terms, which means adding or subtracting. Okay, so let's check out this first one. So the exponent for this first one of the first term is 3. The second term is 3. And so therefore we will add the first term and keep the powers. So 5 plus 2 is 7. And then we keep the times 10 to the third power. Now to write this in standard notation, you have your 7. Every time we have a whole number, we have an invisible decimal to the right. And we are going to move it 3 times, and this is going to get much larger because we are multiplying by 10 3 times over. So let's do that again. Check for like exponents. -2, these are the same, so these are like terms. 7 plus 1 is 8. And we keep the times 10 to the -2 power. Now to write this in standard notation, you have 8. Remember, every whole number starts with an invisible decimal to the right of the whole number. And we're going to move this twice. Okay. Now this is a negative exponent, so we are dividing by 10 and then dividing by 10 again. So this number is going to get much smaller. So we are going to move this invisible decimal once to get it in front of the 8, and then we move it one more time. And in that space, you put a 0. Okay. So that's adding in scientific notation when you have like terms. Well, what about subtracting in scientific notation when you have like terms? Let's check it out. So we have like terms, our exponents are the same. Well, we are going to subtract those first terms and still keep the power. So 8 minus 2 is 6. We keep times 10 to the 4th power. Standard notation, we have that invisible decimal, and we're going to move it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one on front. So -3, -3, these are like exponents, so these are like terms, so we can subtract 5 minus 2 is 3. We keep the times 10 to the -3rd power, our 3. Has that invisible decimal here, and we're going to move it 3 times. Well, since it's a negative, we are dividing by 10, dividing by 10, dividing by 10, so it's going to get much, much smaller. So we move that invisible decimal once to get in front of the 3. That leaves 2 more moves. Each move gets a 0, and then we put the decimal. Now our summary for this front page, because we are talking about all like terms. So with scientific notation, adding, subtracting, first you're going to check if your terms are like. So check for like terms. Then once they are like terms, we are going to add or subtract the first term. Okay. And then we keep that power. All right, when you're done, flip the paper over, and let's now talk about unlike terms. unlike terms, all right? So we look at this top example and we see our first term, the exponent is 9, and we look at the other term and the exponent is 8, and 9 and 8 are not alike. So let's talk a little about not like terms. Not like terms. So how do we math these? Well, first off, we are going to choose one term. Now, when I choose a term, I always choose the first term, just because I'm systematic and I just always choose the first term. Can you choose the second term? Sure can. You just got to choose one of them, either the first one or the second one. I'm just always going to choose the first one, but you do you. Whatever term you choose, what we're going to do is we are going to move the decimal. While at the same time and change the exponent. And we're going to talk about how to do that. Because what we want to do is we want to create like terms, but we do not want to change the value of that term we are changing. Okay? So we change it so we can create like terms. 2. So then you're going to math, because you know I like to make math a verb. So you math now the like terms. Okay. And since this is scientific notation, the very last thing we are going to do is we are going to verify that your answer is in scientific notation. And if it's not, we will get it there because it has to be in scientific notation. Okay. So the next set of our notes that we're going to fill out is we're going to fill out LARS, L-A-R-S. All right, we're going to fill that middle section out, and then we'll be able to do our math. So L. L means left. Okay, left. And that means we are going to move the decimal left. Oh, sorry, I spelled that wrong. Decimal left. All right. Now, when you move the decimal left, you're going to add. Left and add are linked. All right. We're going to add 1 to the exponent. For each move left. Okay, so if you move that decimal 1 time to the left, you're going to add 1 to your exponent. If you move that decimal 2 times to the left, you're going to add 2 to your decimal. Okay, left and add go together. R and S. Well, if L stood for left, what do we think R stands for? Right. R is right. And we're going to move the decimal to the right. Okay? And when that happens, we subtract. So we're going to subtract 1 from the exponent for each move to the right. Okay? So if you move that decimal, if you have to move that decimal 1 place to the right, you subtract 1 from your exponent. If you have to move that decimal 2 places to the right, you're going to subtract 2 from your exponent. So you know, there may be times on your assignment when you have to either add or subtract 2, and you have to move your decimal 2 times. Just letting you know. Giving you a heads up. All right, so Lars, let's check this problem out. All right, remember this top problem up here? Again, I said I always change my first term. Why? Just because, no reason. You could totally change the second term. So I want to change my 9 to the 8. In order to get from 9 to 8, I must subtract 1. All right, let's go to Lars. If I subtract 1, I'm moving my decimal to the right. Sorry, I'm making this video at the end of the day. If I subtract 1 from 9, I'm going to move my decimal to the right because these two go together. So my decimal in my term is going to go to the right 1 time. So instead of being in front of the 4, it's going to be behind the 4. So 1, 4, so 14.5 times 10. Well, I move that decimal to the right, so I subtract the 1 move. 9 minus 1 is 8. And then I can just bring the second term over, minus 2.84 times 10 to the 8th power. Now this is about the time you're going to want to get a calculator, okay? I've already gotten a calculator. I've done the math for you because you are going to take 14.5, subtract 2.84 from it, and this is decimal subtraction. Please just use a calculator, okay? So when you do subtract that in the calculator, it gives you 11.66 times 10 to the 8th power. Okay. Well, we chose one term. I chose the first one. I moved my decimal and changed my exponent. So I didn't change the value of my first term. I just made it so it was a like term with my second one. Okay. Then I mathed. Okay, I did steps 1 and 2. Now I need to verify it's in scientific notation. Now to be in scientific notation, you can only have 1 digit in front of the decimal. 11. I have 2 digits in front of the decimal. That is not scientific notation. So what I have to do is I'm going to move my decimal till I only have 1 digit in front of it. All right. I had to move my decimal 1 place to the left. I moved my decimal 1 place to the left, so 1.166. When I move it to the left, I must add the 1 move to my exponent, times 10 to the 9th power. Now I am in scientific notation. All right. Let's try that one more time with our bottom problem, all right? We're going to keep our Lars in sight so we can follow along as we see how we have to move our decimal, okay? So 8.41 times 10 to the 3rd plus 9.71 times 10 to the 4th. Exponents do not match, okay? I always happen to just change the first one. Okay, so I have a 3. I want to make it a 4. Well, if I have a 3 and I want to make it a 4, I need to add 1. All right. So if I am going to add 1 to my exponent, that means I'm moving my decimal to the left because they go together. And I move my decimal to the left. I need to add 1. I move my decimal to the left 1. So instead of behind the 8, it now goes in front of the 8. 41 times 10. I moved it to the left, which means I add 1, 3 plus 1 is 4. Now I bring over my second term, 9.71 times 10 to the 4th power. These are now like terms. All right, awesome. So I can now take 0.841 and I can add 9.71 because those are the first part of my terms. And I use my little handy dandy calculator. I've already done it. It is 10.551 times 10 to the 4th power. All right, awesome. So I chose my term. I moved my decimal, changed the exponent so that they were now like terms, but without changing the actual value of the first term. Then I mathed. Now let's verify if we are in scientific notation. Well, I have said that scientific notation, you only get to have 1 digit in front of the decimal, where I have 2. So we have to move our decimal. We're going to move it till we only have the 1 term, the 1 digit that's in front, which is 1. 1.0551 times 10. All right, I had to move my decimal to the left. I moved it to the left once, so I'm going to add 1 to my exponent. 4 plus 1 is 5. Now we are in scientific notation. Okay, so there were 2 of these on the back of these notes. You're going to find 2 of these on the bottom of your assignment. Okay, your assignment, all the answers should be in scientific notation. You have like 6 adding like you did on the front and 6 subtracting, and then you have 2 that are like this where you have to move your decimal and change your exponent. There are also going to be 2 of these on the test on Thursday, so you want to make sure you take the time between now and Thursday to do the 2 problems and get your questions answered.